What's up, leaders? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Lead From Your podcast. I'm Jason. Today, I wanted to talk about doing hard things. Hard is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think this is something that talking to my kids, talking to other parents, talking to coworkers, old coworkers, talking to old bosses and old leaders and people in the leadership space, people that email me and talk to me about the things that are happening in their career, their people's career. A lot of people talk about hard, and a lot of people talk about hard in a negative way. And I think hard is interesting because we're in this weird spot in the world right now where hard is not necessarily the path forward, because hard is connected to some of the ways that people act and some of the ways that people treat. And really from dysfunction, hard has gotten a bad rep. And I think there are certainly times where hard is not great. With all that being said, I do think it's important to remember that anything that's worth doing is on the other side of something hard. Like, you're not going to do anything great. You're not going to change the world. You're not going to make change in the political spectrum, in your company, your business, launching a business, your family, your community. You won't make any real change without doing hard things, whether that's hard conversations, hard work, hard situations, hard anything that is really valuable to a community, to a business, to a family, are on the other side of hard. And that sucks, but it's just the reality. I think we're wired to do hard things as humans. The problem is that everybody ties the same hard to the same everybody. Everybody's hard is a little bit different, and it's important for everybody to understand their own level of hard. We're all not David Goggins. We're all not Jocko Willink. Now, with that being said, all the things that they talk about, like ownership and accountability and doing hard things, those are all important, but it's finding your abilities and understanding what that looks like. And if you're a leader, it's really important for you to understand what that means for your people, because everybody's not going to show up in the same way. And if you're not doing a good enough job of understanding who they are as a person, how they're driven, what hard looks like to them, and how to pull the hard things out, you're going to put them in a situation where they may get to a point where they're beyond the hard that they can handle. Now you're putting them in a situation where they're at risk. The bigger issue there for me is the people that let people get there and then avoid the conversation. Avoid the conversation of like, hey, this seems like it's very hard for you, and it doesn't feel like you're feeling comfortable. It doesn't feel like you want to stretch or can stretch. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you are going to get fired. It just means that maybe you're in the wrong position. Too many people avoid that conversation because they don't want to have that conversation, because it's one of the hardest conversations in leadership. Beyond the actual letting somebody go, one of the hardest conversations is saying like, hey, I'm not sure this is right for you. But it's the most important, because if you're not doing that, you're putting them in a situation where they're either going to flounder so long they get fired or they quit. Both are failures on you as a leader. The important thing to remember as a leader is that you can't avoid the hard, but also there's a lot of hard things that come your way, that come your team's way, that don't need to happen. Don't need to be a part of their daily existence. As a leader, whether you're talking about business, a church, a family, you're going to have certain levels of pressure, whether that's bills, whether that's, community pressure, whether that's actual business. Hey, the customer wants it cheaper and faster, and the deadlines don't care about your feelings, like all of those played out conversations that people have talked about throughout the years. The important thing to remember out of that and to take away from that is that there's always going to be pressure. There's always going to be hard things. The goal is not to eliminate hard. The goal is to make sure that the hard is worth it on the end. If you're doing that for your team, if you make sure that whatever you're working on, whatever you're pushing towards as a team or as an individual with somebody else, if you're trying to drive somebody's career, as long as the hard is driving them somewhere important, as a leader, you leaned into hard things to get where you are, generally speaking, whether that's hard work, hard conversations, or all of the above. There's not a world where you get what you want without hard. Generally, it's just making sure you're doing the right hard, and that's where the nuance comes in. That's where the hard part of leadership comes from. So make sure you're having the conversations. Make sure you understand where people are coming from. Make sure you understand that hard doesn't mean good, but also good doesn't come without hard. So it's making sure that you're doing the right hard at the right time for the right situation, right person, right company, right project, whatever it is. Hard is not avoidable. Just make sure it's the right hard. Ultimately, hard is not bad. Hard for the sake of hard is. So make sure that you are doing something hard, but make sure it's worth it. Make sure it has a tangible goal that will actually move you forward as an individual. And if you have reached your limit, you have been stretched your capacity or beyond, have the conversation. Or you see somebody that has been stretched beyond their capacity, have the conversation. Say, hey, it feels like this is hard for you. Let's talk about what this looks like, where you can go, what we can do. have the conversation. As a leader, that is your most important conversation to have. It is the hardest, one of the hardest, but it's the most important. I hope this is helpful. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen and engage with this content. It's definitely been kind of starting to get moving again, which is great. Getting more emails again, which is great. Just keep doing what you're doing. Do the best you can for your team, for the people around you. And yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up, jason@leadfromhere.co. If you disagree, if you want to tell me ideas or other things you want to talk about, hit me up. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week. Take care of yourselves, take care of those people around you, and yeah, see you soon.